Hey y'all, this is a big chunk of heavy metal. Do you really want this stuff in your body? No, I don't think so. I am going to talk today, it's Q&A Thursday, every noon Pacific. I'm going to talk today about heavy metals in the body, what they're doing to us in our bodies, and where they're coming from. How are we getting these metals into our bodies? So the heavy metals I'm going to talk about in particular are lead, arsenic, mercury, cadmium, it's hard to say, and aluminum. There's many others, but those are the big offenders, okay? Lead has been banned from many products years ago, but it's still in so much everywhere. So I'm going to talk about that today. And if there's any questions, feel free to post your questions and I will answer them. So what happens is the lead, the arsenic, the mercury, all these heavy metals and other neurotoxins, they get into our bodies. They get into our cells and they can't get out of the cells because the cell membrane becomes inflamed. The cells become inflamed, the membranes become inflamed, the cell receptors on the membranes can't do their job. And when they can't do their job, they can't speak to the hormones. And what ends up happening is the entire endocrine system malfunctions. It stops working. It can't regulate the hormones properly, and so much of our body function is dependent on these hormones working properly. So the other thing that happens is that these toxins get stuck in the cells, especially the fat cells, and they can't get out, and the good nutrients can't get in because these cell membranes are inflamed. So those are the three big issues, and what ends up happening when these hormones get all out of balance is that we start having issues, and I'm going to just name a few issues and which hormones are related to those particular issues. So, for example, insomnia. Insomnia is related to a imbalance or not properly functioning balance of cortisol, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and thyroid hormone. Weight gain, belly fat especially, and weight loss resistance, stubborn weight that you can't get rid of even if you're dieting and exercising. Those are all related to cortisol, insulin, estrogen, androgen, and thyroid, just to name a few. There's many more related to the weight issues. Hair loss is related to cortisol, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. Brain fog, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, thyroid, cortisol. Seeing a pattern here? Frequent colds, which is what I had. Constantly getting sick and getting colds and flus, or feeling like I was getting a cold. That's low functioning immune system, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, thyroid, cortisol, all affect the immune system. Joint pain and joint stiffness, estrogen, testosterone, DHEA, and thyroid, all of those cause even more inflammation when you have an imbalance of those. Mood swings, cortisol, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. Trouble getting pregnant, infertility, FSH hormone, LH, thyroid, estrogen, progesterone, fatigue, low energy, afternoon energy crashes, all related to cortisol, again, thyroid, estrogen, progesterone. Constipation. I'm not going to keep naming the hormones because they're mostly the same. They do vary a little bit. But constipation, bloating, diarrhea, alternating constipation and diarrhea, anxiety, huge. Anxiety is also related to serotonin and the growth hormone. Erectile dysfunction, so common in so many men. Again, cortisol, low testosterone, thyroid, low libido, headaches, irritability, which goes with the mood swings, slowed healing. So you have like a cut or something, or you have a cold and it's taking a while to get over it, long COVID. All of these things also then start to, this inflammation that we're having going on from that heavy metal and the other neurotoxins cause these issues that I've just gone over, plus degenerative issues. Then they lead to bigger things like degenerative issues, neurological issues, and the hormone imbalance like we talked about. Then starts to come bigger issues as this goes on, which it's in us. It's been in us for decades, from the buildup, from everything we eat, we drink, we breathe, the soil, packaged foods, even organic foods. I mean, it's crazy where it is. And I'm going to go over in a minute, I'm going to talk about some of the sources of these heavy metals in particular today. There's so many other neurotoxins. I'm talking about heavy metals mostly today. And I'm going to talk about some of the lesser known sources of these in everyday things that you are eating and putting on your skin everywhere. And some of them are quite surprising. So these constant hormonal imbalances going on and the constant chronic inflammation, cellular inflammation, then starts to lead to bigger issues like high blood pressure, thyroid imbalances, which then leads to Hashimoto's, type 2 diabetes, Crohn's disease, all the autoimmune diseases, uterine fibroids, and heavy bleeding, which then most women end up getting surgeries for. They have the fibroids removed. The fibroids, new ones grow back. They have more surgeries. Finally, they have to have their uterus removed, or maybe they have the uterus removed in the first place. Then they have all kinds of even more hormonal imbalances. Horrible. This is all mostly preventative, treatable with diet and getting rid of all this garbage in our bodies. Bone loss is another one. So there's just a few things for you, and I wanted to talk about some of the sources of some of this stuff. Aluminum, you'll find that a lot of these things contain many heavy metals. For example, the red ink in tattoos. Never knew that one. As well as red vinyl contains aluminum, lead. We have things like e-cigarettes and cigarettes in general. Cigarette smoke contains over 7,000 chemicals and toxins. But e-cigarettes, for example, has lead, chromium, nickel, aluminum, cadmium, can't say that, cadmium. What else? In aluminum, all kinds of cosmetics have aluminum in it. Soaps, hand washes, dishwashing products, laundry detergents, hair products, deodorants, cosmetics. Your skin absorbs, our skin absorbs so much. So everything, we think that we just have to put it in our mouths. No, we put it in our skin, and especially take a shower with it. We have the biggest pores on the top of our heads. That all comes into our bodies. That's why it's so important to go all natural. It's not just like you're being some hippy-dippy by doing all natural stuff. No, there's really good reasons for doing this. I'm learning as I get deeper into this. Almost every boxed food made with grains, especially rice, has bad stuff in it. For example, Trix Loaded cereal is one of the new cereals put out by General Mills, has aluminum, has lead, arsenic. Arsenic is very prevalent in rice-based products, just rice in general, brown rice being the worst. I'll do a talk on rice, but white rice is actually much better because it has less of these chemicals. And a lot of these are naturally occurring, but a lot of them are just coming in from the soil, because our soil is so polluted now from all of this toxic waste that we have on Earth. Let's see, commercially raised chicken and eggs. 70% of the U.S. chickens are fed arsenic-containing feed, which then gets into the meat, gets into us from the meat from the eggs. Let me just go over a couple. I have a whole guide about this, so drop me a comment and I'll send you a direct link to the guide. It's a 12-page report that goes over 200 plus lesser known sources of all these neurotoxins, including the heavy metals. So cadmium, dark chocolate, sorry to say, has cadmium and lead in it, which I was very sad to find out. Most of them do. School lunches, there's been some testing done. School lunches, 100% of the school lunches tested contain heavy metals, up to 6,000 times higher than the maximum levels allowed in drinking water. What the heck? Jesus, I can't even believe it. So drop me a comment if you want a link to those studies that were done. Cadmium and lead were of the highest of all the heavy metals found in school lunches. Fast foods, metal pans, plastic, Tupperware, all of that. Common toothpaste. Let me jump to the other metals. I have all kinds of stuff in my report, but I'm not going to go over everything here. I would be here all day. Big one, mercury, highly toxic. Red tattoos again. Most fish, especially the larger ones like tuna, you're better off doing salmon, but I don't do fish a lot anymore for this reason. Thermosol, which is still in vaccines. Even though they took it out, it's now in another form in vaccines, but also just even in contact lenses. Thermosol in contact solution. There was Thermosol, which is a mercury-based organic compound. It's called merthiolate. And that was banned in the 90s, the contact solution, Thermosol in the contact solution. But it's in so much other stuff. Crowns, bridges, all of our dental fillings. Amalgam is 50% mercury. The mercury itself, they say doesn't come out, but vapor has been measured numerous times coming off of the mercury fillings going straight into the brain. And there's been lots of studies done on umbilical cords of newborns and the amount of mercury that's already in a newborn that hasn't even lived yet, directly correlated to the number of silver fillings in the mother. Again, let me know if you want links to the studies. I have lots of links to these studies. So that's just a few things, friends. Any questions before I call it quits today? Didn't have any other questions come in. You can always post a question after the fact, and I'm happy to answer it in the post or live again. And I just would like to give you as much of this resource as possible to help educate you, all of us, about what's really in our everyday lives. Once again, I can send you that link to the 200 plus hidden sources of these heavy metals and other neurotoxins. If you're curious, if you have some of those symptoms and you haven't been able to overcome them and your doctor doesn't have any solutions for you either, without maybe taking sedatives in the example of insomnia, then why don't you take my neurotoxicity quiz for a whirl, see how you score. And following that quiz is a webinar by one of the doctors that I'm working with. I'm working with 2 doctors, going through my own detox. If you haven't heard yet, I've been talking a lot about it. It's been all year. But there's a webinar, that free webinar that my doctor has put together about this topic, about how to get rid of this stuff out of our bodies. So take the quiz that leads to the webinar. You can decide if you want to do anything about it or not. Depends how bad these symptoms are. A lot of my symptoms have been going away. I'm not completely done with my detox, but my joint pain is significantly better. I'm not getting sick twice a month like I used to. Sleeping way better. Not as much hair loss when I take a shower. I used to have big clumps of hair in the drain. So those are some things that have improved for me. Thanks for being here. Take care, everyone.